Now, one of the problems of this water wall is it takes water. I'm standing here at the southernmost end of our greenhouse. There's a small water wall. It's also called an evaporative cooler, but it serves to cool the greenhouse when it gets too hot. Now, one of the problems of this water wall is it takes water. Well, that's not bad by itself, but the way right now that we get water from our house all the way over here to the greenhouse is by more than 100 feet of garden hose. There's plenty of opportunities for this hose to get punctured, to develop a leak, get disconnected, and we don't want that to happen when we're on a trip. And we have somebody who's going to watch our place while we're gone, which is great, but we still have to make sure that this thing operates continuously with low probability of failure. So one of the things that I'll be doing is I'll be changing this piece of hose for a much shorter piece and running water inside the greenhouse. At least I'll be running water in the greenhouse when it isn't freezing. Well, let's go take a look at the greenhouse and understand exactly what I'm going to do. Our greenhouse is pretty empty right now. In fact, it's completely empty of all growing plants. That was on purpose. We knew that we were going to be going to an event quite a ways away, and there's an issue of whether or not we could have our hydroponics system set up for tomatoes while we're gone. We didn't have somebody scheduled to take care of it for us, so we decided not to plant the hydroponics right yet. I'm hoping we can plant some tomatoes before we go, but we'll see. We have a few indeterminates that we have everything set to run strings up to our purlins up here. The hydroponic system is all in place. All I need to do is dust it off, put water in, put nutrients in, and start running it. Now the trick is the hydroponic system goes through one of these tanks, about 45 gallons of water, every 2 or 3 days in the middle of summer. So we have to be aware of that. I have our water delivery service set up to deliver water for the time that we'll be gone, and they'll be coming in about every week to fill up our tanks, and that should take care of us for the time we're gone. Well, what do I do about plants that go into buckets or totes or wicking bed totes or all kinds of things like that? Well, the answer is going to be I have to have some kind of automated watering. Now, my intended solution is to use a smart yard irrigation controller. This is a 12-station controller. I use that 12-station controller preferentially to anything else because my experience here on the homestead is that if I choose a different size, smaller, say 6 or 4 irrigation heads, we're going to run out of it, and then I'll be having to retrofit and do all kinds of things, and I just don't want that hassle. I'm going to hook this to the Starlink system so that I can check it daily while we're on the road. That means I can tell whether or not things are being watered the way they're supposed to be. So each one of these 6 valves can control at least one irrigation manifold for drip irrigation, and that's the plan. Separate them out over about 6 feet, maybe a little bit more, so that we can have one drip emitter manifold per bench, and one for the seedling starting area as well. Now, what about the other side? We've grown cucumbers and other vining plants in a soil mixture in buckets for a number of years. We put them right here because this is close to where moist air will be coming out of our evaporative cooler. We don't want that moist air to be hitting our tomato plants right away. So this is one area that we want to make sure that I'm able to water adequately. Now I have 24 feet of hydroponic stations here. We've typically put 15 or 16 tomato plants in this area. It's already set up to be automated. In fact, it already is automated. I use a timer to run the pump that moves the nutrients to all of the tomato plants. And I run an Airstone air pump 24 hours a day. Now the problem is when we go, I'm going to have to make sure I prepare my best guess of what's going to need to be added to the sump of the hydroponic system. And that's because I can't count on the person who's going to be taking care of our place to mix hydroponic nutrients. So I'll take a good guess at what's likely to be required, and I'll leave that set up for him to just add to the reservoir. We're going to use the same style of irrigation valves that I've been using out in the rest of the garden. It just makes it easier if I need to change things, move them around, or if I need to steal a part from one part of the system to the other, I can do so. These valves are going to be mounted on this hip board of the greenhouse. I'm going to have to do some additions to this hip board because I need to run a water pipe from the north end of the greenhouse all the way to the south end. Each of these valves gets tapped into the water line. The valves only turn on when an electrical signal from that controller says turn on, so we can make sure that we get the right amount of water at the right time of day. How am I going to hook this pipe up to the house water? Well, unfortunately, I'll have to do that with a hose, but I can get a heavy-duty, shorter hose that'll be less of a risk than I'm currently using going to the evaporative cooler. Well, how do we hook up the evaporative cooler? Well, let me take you to the other end and I'll show you. And the evaporative cooler is mounted on a piece of plywood that's in the space where I used to have a door into the greenhouse. I'll be running the water line the length of the greenhouse. I'll have 6 valves in place in the line. I'll run the water across here, so it's going across in front of the greenhouse plastic. And then I'll run it through the plywood for the door. On the other side of the door, and that's the plywood bulkhead that the evaporative cooler attaches to, I'll put a 1/4 inch swivel on the end of that PVC pipe. So I'll run that then to the swamp cooler, evaporative cooler. That should make the system a lot more robust. Right now I'm using a piece of clear tubing that's commonly used around here to connect house water to an evaporative cooler. One of the problems with it is that it breaks. It breaks here because of the high altitude we're in. That really takes its toll on a lot of plastic products, so we'll make sure that that's replaced with something that's not likely to break while we're gone. Well, I hope this explains a little bit about what's going to be happening over the next few days. It's some work. It's going to be quite a lot of work, actually. I'll probably be out here tonight working in the dark because it's warm. In fact, it's real warm. Yeah, the cooler does cool the greenhouse down quite a lot. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and press the bell. That gives you notifications when we publish some new content. We're doing a lot of things getting ready for other things are going to be happening, and you wouldn't want to miss it. We'll talk with you later. Bye. Hey, keep brainstorming.